Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Simon, and today I'm going to have a short session with you in regards of the alternative ways how to migrate towards the public clouds for the enterprise and the corporations. So I will start with a short introduction here. So a few words about myself. I'm Simon, just like I said a few seconds ago. I'm working as a cloud architect within the SoftServe in the critical services team. I'm working mostly with the product called the VMware Cloud on AWS, Google Cloud VMware Engine, and VMware TANZU. In regards of my experience, I have 10 plus years in the IT, most of which I have spent in the financial and the banking background when I was doing mostly virtualization solution designs and implementations. And as a result, this allowed me to achieve the VMware Certified Design Expert number 294. This can be treated as a PhD in architecture of the virtualized environment and the hybrid environments. This program is running for more than 10 years as of now, and only 300 people worldwide have such title. As a result, I'm also actively working as a mentor within the company and the VMware community. I'm having a lot of joy helping people step up their career and help them drive their challenges, their career, and so forth. As a result, in my past career, I was able to co-write one of the books. And apparently, as you can see now, I'm also doing some sort of a public speaking as well. Out of the, let's say, industry specialities and activities, I'm a sci-fi geek. So whenever you would like to talk with me about the Star Wars, Halo, or be it a Mass Effect, I'm all yours in this regards. And what's left of my free time, I try to spend playing guitar at home. So maybe we'll meet at the stage one time in future. And if you didn't realize yet, I'm a very talkative person, and I can talk and debate about literally anything. This session is going to be divided into 3 or even 4 sections. This presentation will be divided into 4 parts. So the first one would be stage setting. Then we will be talking about the technical solutions, and lastly we will have 2 of them actually, and lastly we will have a Q&A session at the end of those. So feel free to ask any questions along the way. Okay, so let's start with some kind of a background and setting the stage here. So we are currently in the historical crossroad. So as you know, as you are working within the IT, we have this kind of fancy time whenever a new business is popping up and they will require a new solution, new IT services, most probably they will be immediately looking for the cloud. So that's pretty straightforward, right? But the challenge is that we have a lot of the existing business and the customer that have to migrate it. They have to move towards this cloud. And many of those actually do not have any kind of even strategy or roadmap how to end up in this place. And before we will move forward, I would like to take this opportunity to talk about actually what is this cloud about, right? So just to set the stage here. So as you might know, the cloud is becoming more and more popular, and as a result, its availability is also increasing. A few years back, we couldn't hear about any regions opening or locations opening nearby, and now we are talking about public cloud vendors opening their sub-regions as well in Poland, because this is a growing market for us as well. So this is becoming more and more popular and highly available as well as a result. One of the other benefits that the cloud offering is bringing towards us and towards the business is that we have this decreased lead time. So no longer we'll have to request the hardware and wait months for delivery, configuration, and deployment, just like in the best time. Now we have everything literally in minutes, in hours, in the worst case scenario. Also, it is important to mention that the cloud also brings us a lot of additional benefits like easier testing. Back in the days, it was very uncommon to application having multiple environments type, for example, like development testing and so on, whenever we could test the new features, new functionalities. So everything was actually tested in production. And this not always have ended up well for a lot of companies. Cloud also gives us on-demand resources, so we do not have to forecast this into the future. Whenever we will have a new demand, we just require this, and few seconds later, it's actually working for us already. And also, lastly, I think the most important reasoning with the business is that with the cloud services and the cloud operating model, we have those predictable costs. So we can use the available calculators to potentially estimate that what would be the TCO for us and for our business. Okay, so we kind of do believe that we agree on those benefits for the cloud. But before moving forward about the migration and the application modernization as well, I would like to take a few minutes discussing the engineering versus business perspective of the cloud migration. So as you can imagine, we are having two totally different mindsets. So on the left, we have the engineering mindset, and on the right, we have the business mindset. We tend to, because I still consider myself as an engineering person, having the engineering background. So we are very much technology driven. Whenever there's a new open source project, whenever there's a new solution, whenever there's a new kind of vendor giving us some new capabilities and services, we are so eager to deploy it, right? This is a very common within the industry and within the engineering. Next, we are very well change oriented, right? So we are open to change, to break the silos, to challenge everything. And well, that's what drives us. That is what is driving us on the daily basis. As a result, or actually the byproduct of it, the engineering, unfortunately, we are having a very little awareness in regards of the risks. And not talking only about the security risk, but also the business-related risks. So business continuity and facts like that. And subset of those kind of the mindset, the features of the engineers, let's call it like this, we are having this tendency to have a short to mid-term view. So not many of engineering people will be thinking about the solution they are working with in regards of the year plus horizon. And on the other hand of this kind of journey, let's call it like this, we have the business, right? And the business have a totally different view on the challenges. So we have the business continuity and growth. We have, from the business perspective, there is a really low risk appetite. So the business knows, the business stakeholders know that even a single change, small change, can impact the business and can render our company being shut down as a result. We have also a very, very big focus on security. We know, we are hearing this, that, like company A, company B is being attacked by the malware. We have on the daily basis, we have a new 0 days as well on the daily basis. And one of those can actually bring our company down as a result. And we have also this market pressure. So profit margins, those are decreasing, and there are other competitors trying to get advantage over our services and solution. So this is a very contested space, I would say. And as a result, the business mindset, the business stakeholders, the tendency up there is to have this mid to long-term view. So we are talking here about the tactical and the strategical point of view, which is being counted in actually years. Okay, so I do believe that I have explained the differences of the understanding what are the challenges in the migrating towards the cloud. So let's talk about the cloud migration itself for now. So I will not try to act here as the smartest person in the world. So AWS in this case have created this awesome framework for 6 R's for cloud migration. And they have designed six different tracks, 6 different paths towards the clouds and towards the cloud in this aspect. So we are going to have the refactoring, re-architecting, rehosting, retirement, replatforming, retaining, repurchasing. So 6R is the exception from this. If you would be interested in those, please do Google yourself the 6Rs for the Google. AWS have done a really awesome job describing this, and this can be really used, and this can really resonate within a lot of the businesses in the engineering. So you will have the link, but you can also you can also search this by yourself. Okay, so before we move forward toward the migration itself, I think it is important to emphasize that based on their market research, and this is going to be based on the Gartner here. Gartner have worked with a lot of companies, and they have identified some of the challenges during the cloud migration and how they can bring the cloud migration off the rails. So let's assume that our new appointed CEO is a cloud-first person. He just got his new position, and he wants everything within the cloud within the next 6 months. This is not something uncommon. This is a very popular thing happening in a lot of companies. So we are starting with establishing some kind of a roadmap, right? Okay, 6 months, there you go. And some of those migration challenges that was identified by Gartner, there are actually as follows. So first of all, it is the wrong team responsible for the migration. Based on my personal observation, based on my personal, and I emphasize on this observation, I would say that one of the most suboptimal, to call it like this, decision would be to ask the infrastructure teams to perform the migration and the design of the cloud solution, because they will try to mimic the on-premises world within the cloud, and this is exactly the way how it should not work. This should be a totally different. Next, because of the short timeline, we have a very rushed up assessment, right? So we will not be able to perform the detailed analysis and analytics, how and which application should be migrated first, which should be, for example, maybe even not migrated at all. Then we have a wrong emphasis. So a new appointed CEO have made a design decision, to actually strategic decision in this aspect, to move towards the cloud. And guess what? They did not communicate this properly. So there is going to be a lot of confusion, uncertainty on the people side, on the application team, operation team, and so on and so forth. Then we have another one, which is a poor landing zone design, and this is a very dangerous one, because each company is very specific. They have own custom requirements, custom needs, and you cannot leave this on a default. So you have to tweak it towards your need. For example, consider having some kind of an account strategy, consider having some kind of governance processes. This all reflects towards the strategy and the cloud strategy. And believe me or not, it is also very common that a lot of companies that decide to move towards to the cloud, they do not have those cloud strategy in the first place. Then we have the mistimized work effort. So we are very optimistic that we'll migrate our 1,000 applications to the cloud in less than 6 months. But the reality is that not nice in this case, right? So the tendency from the project management, from the program management perspective, is that they tend to be optimistic, and the reality is, well, a little bit different in this case. And last but not least, it's the hidden cost. You will hear this on the daily basis, that the cloud is cheaper, and yes, it is cheaper. But there are some kind of a certain aspect that you have to cover. You have to consider kind of replication, high availability, performance requirements. So doing a simple lift and shift might be suboptimal from the cost. Also, when you're going to do re-architecture of your applications, you will have some additional cost generator there as well. So this shouldn't be treated as a written in stone. This is a working environment in this case. So those are the 6 challenges that were described by the Gartner, and the most common ones that most of us, I do believe, are found of, and we have met those along our careers. So now I would like to move from the risks and the challenges to the drivers, and what actually drive the business towards the cloud. So this is yet another resource that I have found while preparing to this session. It was based on the IDC industry cloud paths from 2 years ago, so not that old, I would say it. And one of the first migration driver that was mentioned by during the interviews processes is that the capacity problems, right? So data on premises have grown beyond the scalability, and those companies that were asked for by this industry cloud path, they have given the information that this is one of the most common aspects for them. The next one was actually the IT budgets being constrained or reduced. And you can realize that we are now living in a very dynamic world. We know that, our salaries are rising very often and very high. And on the other hand, the cost optimization areas are decreasing, right? There is only so few areas when we can decrease the cost that we have to tend for this, and we have to put this into consideration. And as you see, for over 40% of companies, this has been one of the important migration drivers. Third one would be actually supporting the digital transformation initiative. So this is the case that I have used on the previous slide in regards of the new COE going cloud first approach. And this is going to be one of the migration driver, but not the first one, apparently. Then the fourth one will be the functionalities that or services that can only be found on public services. We are well aware that it's not feasible in a lot of cases to try to recreate the services available on the cloud, on premises. So that's the use case for that as well. Lastly, we have to consider the security aspects in regards of the compliance. So I'm coming from banking and finance, and I must say that this is one of the best apparently regulated and governed kind of the industry, right? But this is not the whole market out there. There's a lot of SMBs and other enterprises that they do not put that much detail into their work, into their governance processes. And whenever a first audit comes in and asks some fancy questions or tricky questions, they will end up with a lot of audit points that they will have to satisfy. So for example, a shortcut or workaround here might be that a lot of those features and capabilities provided by the public clouds, they will be coming with some sort of a certifications or security framework. So this is going to preset, this is going to be a cheat sheet, let's call it like this, to achieve, to make sure that our security is going to be increased. Obviously not the all levels, because the data will still be on us, but the infrastructure and the platform levels, those will be easily to address with the built-in security frameworks. And actually the last one, in this case, would be a failing to meet demands of the business due to legacy systems, right? So when I was working in the operations and in engineering, I still remember that there was some of the Solaris, AX4AX, and other I would say some sort of legacy systems. They are places when they will be years to come for them, right? But the more and more software companies and new vendors, they are actually releasing applications and the software in a new form. So for example, it is becoming common, and I have just recently found that apparently one of the governmental institutions in Poland, they are releasing the software as the container images, right? So I was kind of surprised by it. And, apparently some of the other companies have to align, have to provide the platform for that as well. So we have the challenges, we have the risk, we have the migration. So how we end up having this actually presentation for us. So as you can see, and as described, we have those migration drivers. And on the other hand, there are a lot of companies that have those existing investments. So how we can build up on top of that. And in this part, I would like to share with you some kind of basics about the market coverage. As I said, this is going to be a discussion on sharing some kind of a VMware kind of a view. It's not intended to be a sales kind of activities, but trying to understand how the companies that are using this kind of a software can actually benefit from it. So let's talk on market coverage. So we have this kind of distribution for the markets. We have a public domains, multinational, national enterprises, and SMBs. And their virtualization solutions are like follows, right? So we have some kind of an order, we have Citrix, this is some sort of a Microsoft, and then we have VMware. As a result, we can say that currently 8 out of 10 companies that are out there working with the virtualized solution will be running a VMware solution. So this was actually a very good client base, and customer base, and the deployment base as well, to develop something that will benefit everyone in this case. So as a result, the VMware have actually created and jointly working with the public cloud providers a solution for business to achieve a quick wins in this case and run the VMware workloads within the cloud. And those would be the Azure VMware solution, Google Cloud VMware Engine, and the most advanced one would be the VMware Cloud on AWS. So what does the business receive as a result of that? So as you might know, and as you are aware of that, previously back in the days when you would have to deploy the data center, this will be taking months, and in very rare occasions, we could talk about years. Within those joint ventures, we are deploying our complete data centers within the hours. So the reduction up there is quite significant. One of the most common problems that I have faced as part of my career was actually capacity management and capacity forecasting. This was always a problem within the companies that I was working with. And when I was talking with the customer, they have also raised this as one of the most common challenges that they were facing. So if you are a lucky company, you had some spare capacity lying around just waiting for configuration and introduction into production, right? But it's not very common. Within the VMware as a service, let's call it like this, we can expand our capacity within a minute. So it's a matter of few clicks, and we have a new host, new resource, new compute and storage in our existing clusters. Next benefit for the business would be actually that this is a very cost-optimized disaster recovery solution, and I have worked with some of the customers already that are coming apparently from the SMBs that were subject to disaster failures. They were some kind of an electrical outages, floods, and things like that. And based on the research that I have done preparing for this presentation, a lot of companies are not able to recover from those, and this means lost jobs, lost profits, and often company closures. So those VMware as a service solutions, they are very cost optimized, and a lot of companies and clients, they are getting the chance to have very cost optimized disaster recovery solutions within the cloud. Next, we have the predictable cost. All of those cloud vendors, they are giving very interesting offers towards the customers. So we can obviously consume the so-called spot instances. So we will be paying for the actual usage, but we can also sign the agreements with the cloud vendors for a period of 1, 2, or 3 years or even more. And for the longer term that we are going to sign our deals with the cloud vendors, the better discount we will get. Not only that, those cloud vendors will also accept our on-premises licenses as a result. So you can see there's a lot of the cost optimization aspect here as well. Back in the days, one of the biggest challenge also was performance monitoring and legacy or on-premises system being very prone towards the performance issues. So because of we have this on-demand resources, we end up with the services that are immune to unpredictable performance spikes. We can establish triggers, we can establish a monitoring that whenever our utilization of our virtualized platform will hit certain level, it will automatically roll a new host, new resources into the cluster for a aforementioned period of time. And when those performance issues will be gone, those newly added resources will be removed from our premises, and we will not longer be paying for those. So as you can see, this is another yet cost optimization and improving our performance aspect here as well. We are also getting the exposure to native cloud services. So I would like to refer back to this SMB, let's say, companies. They didn't have DR, they didn't have a backup. They have, let's assume, moved towards the VMware cloud on AWS, and as a result, they are getting a native access towards S3 object storage. So now they can utilize any of the available solution out there to configure. Actually, this can be even a very good AWS backup manager, that they can use this solution to perform backups and store the data on cost-optimized object storage as free service, when they can deploy, for example, a tiering or any other Glaciers feature as well. And last but not least, you know that very well, that running those infrastructures, those networks, storages, virtualization, this took a lot of people and effort to keep the lights on. I was there, I was doing on-call duties, I was doing designs, deployments, so I know very well how it works. So with this VMware as a service, we have a great reduction of the operational burden. And because the market is really changing right now, and there's a huge demand for DevOps, actually, for a lot of companies, this also might be interesting, because those people that were previously running the infrastructure or platforms, they might be willing to also change their career towards more modern activities, like, for example, DevOps. They can be some kind of data analytics and so on. And for the companies, this is also going to be interesting, because they will be able, those companies, those enterprises, maybe even, they will be able to retain a lot of people. So they will not have to spend, like a month trying to hire new force, or że tak powiem, money finding, like the headhunters and stuff like that. Okay, so I have explained you that we have those kind of VMware as a service, publicly available on different cloud vendors. But the next question actually would be, so I have this ordered, but how do I get there? So VMware was pretty much aware of the problem and the challenges and that were coming with this hybrid cloud approach and VMware as a service kind of approach. So as a result, they have created a solution called VMware HCX, and this is a solution that can connect literally any to any VMware deployment. No matter is it going to be on premises or within the cloud. It can be cloud to cloud, premises to premises, premises to cloud, and vice versa. So this is a solution that allows us to perform a large-scale migration, and we are talking here about thousands and hundreds of virtual machines. And this is going to be a version independent. This will give us this hybridity because, like I mentioned, premises cloud, cloud premises, vice versa. And also this is going to give us a security because this connection and orchestration patterns, those are going to be done via encrypted connection using different kind of a connectivity. We can use a VPN, we can use a direct connect, or a public links as well. I call this a solution a universal migrator, and here I would like to take some time to discuss the potential scenarios when such feature and such tool could be useful. So let's work with the migration part. So this can be pretty much used for the data center consolidation. This can be used as well for the data center evacuation. And the example that I was referring with in the beginning was actually a cloud adoption. So this is quite a straightforward migration pattern, migration usage, but then it can also be used in case of the upgrade or replatform. So we can have some kind of existing installment, and we might need some kind of refresh. We want to limit the downtime. We want to limit any kind of a maintenance window. So we can utilize HCX to migrate towards the cloud or any other location. We can perform refresh in the legacy place, and then we can reverse our migration back into our environment. Also, this could be a very interesting tool for our companies if we are doing a lot of the acquisition and we are buying other companies, right? We have a company that have bought another one, and the company policy says that our workloads have to be placed in certain data centers. So HCX can be used very well for that as well. We are going to establish this, perform the migration, and turn the lights off in the no longer required data center. Or actually, we can also transfer the hardware and then reuse it after the migration. As said, it is a version independent, so this can be also used for the upgrades as well. Back in the days when HCX was released, it was allowing customers, clients, and partners to migrate from unsupported even versions of VMware. So we could do the migration from VMware vSphere 5.5, which is on the market since 2013, if I'm correct here, and it's no longer supported for at least last 3 years, but still the solution allows us to migrate off the workloads without offline migrations. Then we have the rebalance scenario. So we can optimize our cloud footprint. So we have deployed some kind of a VMware as a service in one region, but then we have another one popping up that might be closer to us, might be giving better rates for us. So we would like to move and migrate over there. And then we can also utilize the HCX to shift cloud providers. For example, we were running on Azure, and now the AWS become available in our region. And now we can use the HCX to migrate all our workloads back to the better, more cost-optimized solution. For some of the companies, this might be treated as a multi-cloud strategy because, as you can see from at least the VMware point of view and VMware users' perspective, we are, in this case, a cloud agnostic a little bit, right? We are moving beyond the cloud using kind of a first-party solution, which is HCX. And whatever happens, we can switch to a different provider. And last but not least, in this case, is this business continuity. So we can use the HCX for the disaster avoidance. So I can imagine that we would be working in the US. We are working in Florida, let's let it be, and there's a storm coming in, so we can perform a scheduled migration just to limit our chances to have any kind of severe outage. We can also very well use DR to the cloud. This can be VMC or any other disaster recovery as a service solution by the third parties. VMware is giving one, there's a Zerto giving one as well, so multiple available choices there as well. And also we can do this for the scheduled migration. And you can imagine, you might to ask yourself, okay, but what are the limitations of this tool? And I have seen this product working in production, and believe me or not, migration between the continents is available with that. It is also available to perform this without a downtime for the machine. With one small remark, such live migration are currently only allowed for one VM active migration pattern, but we can also have an offline migration for 100 and 1,000. Okay, so the next part, as I have promised you, will be actually talking about the application modernization. I have given you example how we could quickly move and migrate towards the cloud using some kind of known features, known technologies, but this is not the end of the story. This is actually the beginning of the yet another history, and I would say even beginning of the another interesting journey. So we have this application modernization, right? This is a very fancy term currently in the industry. A lot of people are talking about it. So I would like to set up some kind of stage here before moving forward. So we have those legacy applications, right? We are very well known of those. They are having challenges with the scalability. Most of them can only be scaled vertically, and they cannot scale that much horizontally. Very common for them is having performance issue. Their performance will be highly dependent on the underlying platform. So if the underlying platform is limiting us in performance, we cannot go over it. Next one would be a security, right? So we all know those 0 days happening. We all know those open source solution used in the commercial products. We all know those software release cycles, right? Be it, for example, Microsoft or Red Hat, right? We see those cycles, and there are other vendors and other commercial of the shelf solutions and application vendors that they are having the kind of very custom and limited release cycles. And as such solutions will become more and more niche, the release cycles for those are going also to decrease. So from the security standpoint, it becomes more and more problematic, because whenever there is going a chance to find any kind of a 0 day or vulnerability in our application, we will not be able to patch it quickly enough. So this is in regards of the release cycles. Then we are using those legacy technologies, right? So as explained, those kind of let it be AX servers, Solaris no longer there, right? But still a lot of vendors are still trying to rely on those technologies, and this does not scale anymore. So as a result, the trend in the industry have shifted greatly. We have learned from our mistakes, we have learned from our challenges, and as a result, we have ended up using this kind of a modern applications, or called cloud native applications even, right? Those are intended to be a very highly scalable. They are intended to be platform independent, and as a result, they are expected to have a very high mobility. We can migrate the applications between the cloud, and this is one of the primary requirements for them. And this is also a new trend, or actually new, this is the current trend of using the microservices. So we are no longer running a silo application when they are in fact the single point of failure in a lot of cases, but we want to decouple as many of those as possible. And with the shift of the market towards the security, more and more security features, more and more security focus is becoming apparent in those cloud native applications. So we are now talking about the built-in security. And in regards of the microservices and the container images, we are having the security applied at the pipeline level as well, right? So we can use a third party, for example, image scanners, code reviews, and things like that. And this is a very common practice as of now. So now we are having those DevSecOps terms as well appearing on the job market as well. Quick release cycle, so this is pretty obvious. So we are moving away from one release per quarter, one release per year, towards one release a week, or in some cases on the customer-facing applications, there are some that can do release cycles even on the daily basis, right? So we have the fundamentals of the understanding the challenges between the legacy and why do we need modern applications. But actually, how we can actually migrate or refactor our applications that we have just migrated in thousands towards the VMware as a service, how we can actually modernize those. So a few years back, VMware have actually created a spin-off called a Pivotal. And the pivotal idea and main objective, main goal was actually to prepare the foundation for the application modernization. This was a few years back already. I think that I was working with it in 2018 to be correct, but this happened a little bit before even. And as a result, Pivotal have acquired a lot of rock stars as well from the open source community. So a lot of people working previously within the Google, within the, for example, other companies heavily contributing towards the OSSs, they have become part of the Pivotal. So Pivotal, as a result, have created many interesting services and solutions. This was back in the days Pivotal Cloud Foundry, Pivotal Kubernetes Services called PKS, Pivotal Application Services, and so on and so forth. So when this was developed and it was embraced by the market, actually VMware have decided that it will bring the Pivotal back to the family. And as a result, by this incorporation Pivotal, VMware have created a new product line called VMware TANZU. So this is all about the application modernization in this case. Here you can find on this slide a few of the products from the TANZU portfolio. I'm not going to read aloud those. It's publicly available. We have some of those. The most popular are obviously the TANZU Kubernetes Grid. So we are running containers. And also we are talking about the TANZU Mission Control. The amount of products out there, it's huge, and you need to specialize in some of those as well, and their usage depends on your use case as well. Okay, so we have the stage set for the application modernization from the VMware perspective, right? So we have all the ingredients. We have our virtual machines running on VMware as a service, on AWS, on Azure, or GCP. We are now more than ready to have our application being modernized. And the challenge is that if you are a small company developing and providing one or two applications, refactoring of those is not a big deal. However, if you are an enterprise or a big company running actually hundreds and thousands of applications, having a different team serving those, you know what, this becomes a really problematic to have this kind of transformation and modernization of application. And this is actually when I do believe that the VMware TANZU family might be helpful with. Okay, so you might ask yourself how we do this actually, right? So as part of the recent release few months back, VMware have announced something called Application Transformer. So Application Transformer is a solution that performs the discovery and inventory of our VMware assets, namely the virtual machines. It will allow us to identify over 200 plus application types that are well known and used within the industry. It allows us to create a custom defined fields for metadata, so we can now link the virtual machines with the applications, with the business logic, and so on and so forth. And this discovery process, it creates the inventory both for the VMs, but it's not only limited to the VMs. And due to the underlying technology, which is based on the VMware tools in this aspect, it can get also the insight what is happening within the VMware, within the virtual machine, sorry. So it will become aware of the applications, processes, dependencies, and communication pattern as well. As a result, we will be able to perform the insight and analytics of our data, giving us the application structure and dependencies. This will create a visual application topology for our applications. And believe me or not, the creating and maintaining documentation is not yet a very popular practice within a lot of companies. And so this might be a really interesting for running those as well. And when we have this kind of analytical phase done, then we have this transformation, and in this term, we mean containerization. So we can containerize our legacy application components, and our output in this case would be on artifacts like OCI images and YAML files. And those containers can be easily deployed on the Tanzu Kubernetes platform. So as you can see, this is a kind of a holistic approach towards the application modernization in order to get the today's and yesterday application towards tomorrow's application. Okay, I'll be talking a lot about it, and this still might look not clear enough. So here I would like to give you a little bit more about how many steps we need to actually end up there. So this is actually a four-step process. So firstly, we have to enable the Tanzu Kubernetes Grid on our VMware installment. Then we are going to perform discovery. Then we have to review the dependencies and relationship. And lastly, we are doing containerization. Simple as that, but still, I do believe it's not clear enough. So in this case, I'm going to use some kind of available screenshots, how the process looks like. Okay, so we start with the enablement of the Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. So this will transform our VMware clusters into Kubernetes clusters as well. Within the VMware Cloud on AWS, it's a one-click operation. Actually, you can see that we have this activate Tanzu Kubernetes grid, and we have to wait a few minutes. And as a result, in few minutes, our VMware cluster will also become the Kubernetes cluster as well. Then we are able to perform this inventory. So we will find the applications and virtual machines running within our environment, and we will be able to identify any kind of applications that are running within those VMs. When we do perform the discover, as a result, we will have the topology map for our applications that we have previously been able to describe. So you can see that our dummy application is using some core components. It's also using some kind of a shared services like RabbitMQ in this case, and it's using external DNS for this case as well. So this can be very useful when we have a multiple teams, or actually tens of teams, running different applications that did not maintain the documentation in the past. And well, this is the entry point. They can catch up with that. And when this is done, when the assessment and then the required analysis is done, well, we can move forward towards the containerization. We have our application now containerized. We have OCI image within the registry. We have some additional artifacts, and our containerization modernization have been finished by now. So this is pretty astonishing, I must say, and this is, I think, for a lot of SMBs and a lot of enterprise corporations, this is a huge step. This is a huge improvement, because those shops, those companies that are running those workloads, mostly based on my observation, we are using commercial off-the-shelf software, right? So we rarely have any developers on board that can refactor the applications and make them modern, right? So this is interesting for a lot of companies as well. Okay, I've talked in general about the Tanzu. Now I would like to share some details with you about the Tanzu edition, because Tanzu is something that comes with different editions aligned to the market, I would say. So we have a Tanzu Basic. Tanzu Basic is, like a simple Kubernetes on vSphere. It comes with no advanced features. It has some basic functionalities. It can use existing networking and so on and so forth. There's then Tanzu Standard, Tanzu Advanced. They come with more and more capabilities and software. And also some of them will be coming with the proprietary software and managed services. I'm not going to talk about this, as I have said in the beginning. This is not a pre-sale. I'm not a VMware guy to do this. But why I'm doing this is the reason that recently, or a few months ago actually, the VMware Tanzu have released something very interesting. So they have released a Tanzu Community Edition, and this have to be treated like a testing ground. So this is a newer version of the existing capabilities, or new capabilities, and those should be treated as experimental. So whenever something new feature is going to be there, it's going to firstly appear in the Tanzu Community Edition. So you can use this yourself. You can deploy the Tanzu Community Edition on your workstation, on your laptop, and perform those tests on your own to verify if it is a solution or feature that you're looking for. And what I would like to emphasize is that the Tanzu Community Edition is fully compliant with the CNCF projects, and actually it reuses a lot of those. So from the observability perspective, we'll have things like Grafana, Prometheus, which are very, very well known within the industry. We have some kind of a build and deploy. We have registries. We have a build services. We have other, like a PNP, like Search Manager, OPA, things like that. We have CNIs up there like Antrea, Calico, very well known, very, very matured projects within the CNCF. So there's not that much risks involved in using Tanzu Community Edition on your own. Please do check the end user agreements, see if you can use it in your case. In general, I think this is a very nice starting point for a lot of us to get our hands-on experience with Tanzu in general. Okay, so we are moving towards the grand finale of me speaking and sharing some kind of information about the VMware clouds and the Tanzu applications and the application modernization efforts. So some of the key takeaways that I would like to to be remembered after this presentation is that I would like to share with you that, in my opinion, and I think this is a common by now, the cloud is the future. I also would like to emphasize that we have a different view. The business and the engineering have a different views on our challenges. I would like to use this kind of a quote from Depeche Mode, one of my favorite band out there, is that try walking in my shoes, one of their songs, but I would, in this case, use try walking in Beast's shoes, right? Try to understand their challenges, try to embrace what they are struggling with, because this will help you find a common language with them. This will help you respond to these challenges, and this will also help you grow, because when you will be able to solve business problems, you will become or you will be seen as a valuable engineer for them as well. Remember that the Rome wasn't built in a day, so the cloud migration is not going to be done in one day, 1 month, or for a lot of companies, even for 1 year, unless you're running one application that might be not applicable then. But in general, remember, it's not a road, it's more about journey. And lastly, I would like to emphasize and reflect towards the, I would say, perfectionism of the engineering people, is that, remember, it's good enough versus perfect and versus time to cost to effort. Please do remind about that when you're working with the cloud migration and application modernization, because it takes some time to do so. Okay, so grand final. We as a SoftServe are hiring a lot of people as of now, DevOps, so architects, cloud architects, and so on and so forth, big data specialists. Here's a QR code. You can find our recruitment page as well on the internet. Type SoftServe recruitment, you will find it there. And now I will be moving towards the Q&A session, so we can spend a few minutes and let's see if we have any kind of an active questions running. Okay, so I see some. See first question: is this method suitable, beneficial for startup? Really depends on the scale. If your startup is spending or burning money like startup do with venture capitalists, guys, it might be useful. The question is if you want to develop a wheel or you want to use a wheel. And that would be my answer towards you. Then the next question would be, okay, this is done. Oh, we'll have to translate this live. Does the native application, which will build completely in the cloud, might benefit from quantum services and just like microservices by third parties, just like the D-Wave leap? Tough question. To be honest, I will not be able to answer to you with this because according to my knowledge, there's no support for D-Wave leap. This would be more, and this is the thing with the cloud offerings, right? Remember in the beginning when I have said that there's no chance that some of the services functionalities will be developed on premises or on legacy stack. I think this is one of those. I would imagine that the cloud providers like Google that like do a lot of in this field, they will be leading this kind of an effort. So I would be aiming with the native services in this case. Okay, and I have one nice session. Okay, thank you, Bartek. Nice to see you. Long time no see, actually. Okay, that's all the questions. Thank you very much, and I hope that I have been able to share some of my experience, some of what is happening within the VMware field, and what we are actually doing as a SoftServe. It was pleasure to speak to you, and I'm hoping that this was informative for you. Thank you very much.